Joining us from Dallas, Texas, the Metroplex, where he will be covering tonight's potential closeout game for the Dallas Mavericks. Back here from ESPN, Dave McMenamin. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing great, Rich, and I'm very curious to see what happens in this game 4, considering the Wolves have been the better team in some stretches this series, but they just can't get it done in late game situations.
Well, you could say the same thing about the Pacers, right? Who got closed out and swept by the Boston Celtics. We saw what happened in games 1, 3, and 4. They could easily be up 3-1 instead of sitting at home right now, Dave. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one lesson any basketball fan can take away from the Eastern Conference Finals is you got to foul when you're up 3. That's the lasting thing that I'll remember from that game 1. Obviously, an amazing shot from Jaylen Brown, probably the reason he's walking into the finals with the Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy, the Larry Bird trophy. But Indiana did just about everything they could, especially with Halliburton missing the final 2 games of the series. But, you know, Boston marches on, and can they kind of complete this run 6 out of the last 8 years making to the Eastern Conference Finals, now 2 of those years making to the finals, but will they have a championship to show for it?
Yeah, I know Brown made that shot in game 1. Also, in the closeout game on Monday night, Dave, an incredible block when the Pacers were trying to take the lead late. And then on the other end, he finds Derek White in the corner for the go-ahead eventual series sweeping basket. I mean, he really did it all. Jaylen Brown has done it all, and certainly in a spot in the Northeast when you're the highest paid player and pressure will be on. He's crushed it. He's absolutely crushed it, and the Celtics have won 10 of 14 in the playoffs, and here we are.
Yeah, and think back to the 22 finals, and I know Jason Tatum is kind of the face of that team. He was on my MVP ballot. Even though Jaylen Brown had a very good year as well. The 22 finals, Jaylen Brown really played well against the Warriors. Jason Tatum did not. And so we'll see if you know, Tatum still had his moments in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not trying to suggest otherwise, particularly in games 3 and 4. He was dynamite, not just scoring, which we all know what he can do, but he was hitting the boards and he was distributing the ball. But he has more to make up for in the finals than Jaylen Brown does. So we'll see if they can both be on the same page while potentially reintegrating that 7'2" guy they've been missing for about a month now.
Yeah, I was about to say, for them to be able to get through Indiana and have 9 days off for the entire team and not play Porzingis and not have to feel they have to play Porzingis, what a massive W for the Celtics. Massive day.
Yeah. No move-up date for the finals. They're going to start June 6th on ABC. I'll be a company man here. But
nice.
With that time, let's say the series went deeper and you get closer and closer to the start of the NBA Finals, they would probably feel pressure to play Porzingis to give him a chance to kind of reintegrate himself. But now you're playing him in high-leverage situations versus – now they can have scrimmages and, you know, get ready group games over the next week or so and allow him to be able to play full court basketball without the consequences of, you know, the game being the decider of whether they advance to the NBA Finals or not. So really a great scenario for Joe Mazzulla and that group. And you know, the question mark is, though, their mark through the first 3 rounds, sure, 12-4, I believe, right? Or maybe even better than that, 12-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Impressive, sure, 12-2. But you faced depleted teams. And so are you going to be at your best beating an Indiana team that didn't have Halliburton and beating a Cavs team that didn't have Donovan Mitchell and beating a Heat team that didn't have Jimmy Butler? Are you as battle-tested as the likely Western Conference representative in the Dallas Mavericks, who went on the road to beat the Clippers, who went on the road to beat the OKC Thunder, who went on the road to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves? With all of those teams, I mean, the Clippers didn't have obviously Kawhi, but the last 2 rounds playing 2 teams at full strength. To me, that's kind of the question mark: is will that run by Dallas end up depleting them or actually forging them with kind of more strength and confidence as they head into the NBA Finals.
Dave McMenamin from ESPN here, joining us from the Metroplex prior to the Game 4 potential closeout game for the Mavericks tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. You just give the sense here that Luka's in a different plane right now for him, even for him. Like we're seeing another level for him right now. I'm wondering what the eyeball test says for you, Dave.
Well, I was speaking to Tim McMahon, who also covers the NBA for us, and he is based in Dallas, and he covers a lot of Mavs games. And he pointed out to me, which I didn't register in the moment, but the game winner he hit over Gobert in Game 2, normally he's taken that shot off his left foot. That shot was off his right foot. And so if we are seeing the evolution of Luka Doncic getting an even deeper bag in these high leverage situations, watch out, because the guy is he's a Mack truck out there on the floor. He's one of those guys that if you can go see in person, you're not just going to be impressed by the shooting ability and the passing wizardry, but he is just a massive human being. And it makes him a really tough one-on-one cover, again, because he can spray out the shooters, but because it's hard to keep a body in front of him. And Jaden McDaniel has done a admirable job this series of having the motor to be able to stay attached to him and run through screens and go all over the 94 by 50 hardwood to stay near him. But Jaden McDaniels is a slight guy, and Luka can, kind of knock him off his anchor with a hip thrust or with, a bit of a back down dribble. You're going to be hard pressed to find a guy who is built to stop Luka Doncic. And the problem is if you want to send a double, well, there's Kyrie Irving waiting, and he is also one of the best guys, not just in today's game, but of all time with the ball in his hands. And so it's a formidable Dallas group. We'll see what happens with Derek Lively II, their rookie center, who had that scary inadvertent injury from Karl-Anthony Towns knocking his knee in the back of his head. He has neck sprain right now, questionable for Game 4. But speaking to people around Lively, there's not too much concern that should they get to the NBA Finals that he wouldn't be ready for a Game 1 scenario. There's just a ton of depth with this Dallas team, and Nico Harrison, the general manager, deserves a lot of credit for changing the complexion of the group, adding a Daniel Gafford, adding a PJ Washington. You also already had Derek Jones Jr. and Lively going into the trade deadline. They just have long, rangy defenders who can run the floor. And then again, two of the best guys in the entire league with the ball in their hands, finding those players. It's a beautiful band of basketball, and their defense is a lot better in person than I think they get credit for.
Well, I mean, I saw video, speaking of Luka's size, I saw video of him going up and dapping up Travis Kelce in the tunnels after the Game 3 win, and they were eye to eye. And Travis Kelce's a massive human being. But by the way, I'm not going Austin Rivers on you here with the NBA and the NFL. I'm just kind of pointing that out and equating it for people who might just be wondering about Luka. But I also saw another video on the Dreadful X site, Dave, over the weekend where somebody was pointing out the 6 different defenses that the Timberwolves were throwing at Luka, and he beat every one of them. He saw them coming. He beat every one of them. And I know you mentioned Kyrie as an option. He was ooping it up to Gafford and Lively before he was, hurt, knocked out of the game. He just, again, like I said, he just appears to be unstoppable. One of those unstoppable guys. And I know he's always been that way, but it just feels different right now. It just really does, Dave.
Yeah, and obviously he's dealing with, a bit of knee discomfort. He was listed as questionable going into Game 3. You could see him hobbled from it in the Western Conference semifinals against OKC. I guess that's a bit of a question mark still on everyone's minds. Is can his body hold up for another, potentially 5 more wins they would need for a championship? But the mental strength that he has, certainly in the will to win, you just see it in his approach. He's a true competitor. McDaniels asked him about the shot that Luka hit on him late in Game 3 because after game 2, McDaniels said, hey, if Coach Finch calls for a switch again, I am not going to listen to the coach. I want to be guarding Luka in that late game situation on the right side of the floor. Well, he got what he wished for. And McDaniels had actually that turnaround shot that Luka hit to put them, I think, up 6 with about a minute to go. McDaniels said, I fouled him. The ref didn't call it, but I had nothing left that I could do but to foul him, and Luka still made it. So he's at another level, and that's what you love seeing, because this is the best of the best. This is the best basketball in the world being played right now.
A few minutes left with ESPN's Dave McMenamin here on the Rich Eisen Show. We are one more Mavericks win away, and certainly it's a long shot, one would say, for the Timberwolves to win 4 in a row. We're one dub away from seeing Kyrie in TD Garden. I mean, how is that going to play, do you think, Dave? What's your best guess here on that front?
I'm sure it's going to be a warm welcome from the New England crowd. I mean,
no, but Kyrie has been trying to stay above all of his previous phrase this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, since he's arrived in Dallas, it's just really been basketball and him talking about family life and going out and being the Kyrie of old. This is the past, though, that that's coming. I mean, there's no way that's not going to be the main topic of conversation, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, if they close things out in game 4 and we have a week to talk about the series to preview it,
right,
I think that conversation will come up more and more. I doubt that he will do anything to kind of stoke those embers. I imagine he will address it when the time is right. But it doesn't seem like he's in a space right now to do anything other than, again, as you mentioned, he's taking care of his family off the court. He's been a great teammate on it. I ran into him prior to game 2 in Minneapolis the night before, and I covered him in Cleveland for those 3 years he had before he requested the trade. And we had I wouldn't even say on again, off again relationship. We had a respectful rapport, but I don't think I ever really broke down the walls of Kyrie Irving. But when I saw him the other night, he greeted me with warmth, made eye contact, shook my hand, gave me a hug, and told me my spirit's in a great place. And it seemed to be a genuine statement. And I've spoken to other people who have been covering him with this Mavs team and on this run, and they covered him back in the day and in Cleveland and Brooklyn and Boston, and they felt like there's been a kind of a tangible, palpable change. Maybe it's a growth process. Maybe it's just kind of everything coming together at the right time in the right place. But I'm not expecting controversy to be following Kyrie at all through the rest of this finals run, or should they take care of the Wolves. I think he is a brilliant basketball player on full display, and that's what we'll continue to see until this Mavericks season is over.
And a few minutes left here, Dave McMenamin. So, listen, when you're covering a game, sometimes your phone rings, a text pops off, you're checking on other scores, you're checking on some other things, and you're not looking at the floor. Please tell me that wasn't happening when Anthony Edwards launched on Daniel Gafford in Game 3. And, Dave, you were seeing that. Did you see it?
I caught it.
Okay.
And I'm going to out a colleague, no cheering in the press box or whatever, but yes. Mark Spears, Hall of Famer in the Basketball Hall of Fame,
yes,
in Springfield, was sitting to my left. Mark got up out of his chair and did a full 360 to grab all the other media members around him.
It was unreal.
Because you don't see something like that every day. And he followed it with another score and then another pull-up jumper, and it was such a moment, and it felt like the tide had turned, and it did. Obviously, they tied it up 87-87 going into the fourth quarter. He scored, I believe, 10 points in the third, but then May ran out of gas. He only took 3 shots in the fourth quarter, and that has been something that people have been talking about him around the team, and he's admitted himself that he's been exhausted at times during this playoff run. And ultimately, we may say that he's 22 years old, and that's the next step that he needs to make in his development to get to the next level, whether it be strength training or whether it be cardio training, whatever, to get through that next hump, because the skills jump off the court and through the air. Obviously, we saw with a dunk over Gafford, and he has an infectious personality. There's charisma oozing out of every pore, and I've just observed him around teammates, and it seems like to a man, he has great relationships on that team, and so I think he'll be someone that can lead them. Let's say they do have this playoff disappointment, where this meteoric rise ends with a clunker of a series in Western Conference Finals. I think he'll have the force of personality to keep this group together in the offseason and motivate them to take the next step as we go into next year.
Last one for you, Dave McMenamin. An update on the Lakers coaching search. Are you currently working with the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, Dave? What do you have?
Well, I'll say this. If J.J. Redick gets the job as the next coach of the Lakers, and that's certainly a possibility, don't expect it to happen until after the NBA Finals have occurred. It's an important assignment for JJ personally, an important assignment for the company, obviously, to have him with the A team with Doris Burke and Mike Breen and Lisa Salters. And so don't expect that news to come down until the NBA Finals is over. But he remains one of the targeted candidates, along with James Borrego and Sam Cassell. The Lakers have interviewed other candidates, the Wolves, Mike Nori, David Alleman of the Denver Nuggets. And I believe I may have mentioned this last time we spoke, until Ty Lue of the Clippers has a contract extension, don't consider him out of the running for the Lakers' next head coaching job. It would seem unlikely, considering the reporting that we've already had from Adrian Wojnarowski, that the Clippers' intention to have Ty Lue signed to an extension. But, it's been a month and there's still no extension for Ty Lue. So until that deal is inked, I wouldn't consider him out of the running as well.
Well, the fact that their Lakers haven't named anybody yet, and the opening has been around for a few weeks, the Suns have already, fired a former Laker coach and hired a former Bucks coach. That's already happened. Makes you think that they're waiting for J.J. Redick. Like that's how it feels. But obviously anything can happen,
Anything can happen, but I mean, there's a reason we are talking about J.J. Redick's name here. I wouldn't say as strong as an inevitability, but certainly a leading candidate. I feel comfortable calling him that.
All right, I appreciate all the time you've given us. If you got another minute and you have a Bill Walton story you want to pass along, Dave? Ever cross paths?
I have cross paths with them. I was, fortunate enough just to spend time at various NBA events, NBA All-Star, NBA Finals, and you just see him around. I wish I had like that ultimate Bill Walton story. I think maybe the best compliment I could pay Bill Walton is Richard Jefferson, who, I consider a friend, a colleague, someone I covered with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's a sarcastic jerk a lot of the times. That's the way he shows his love. But to see him kind of turn into almost a doting son around Bill, and lose a bit of his edge, and to have more of the warm and cuddly side of Richard Jefferson come out when he was around Bill, to me that I always that struck me, and it just showed the kind of influence that Bill Walton could have.
Dave, really appreciate the time. We'll chat with you in maybe a week or so, if you don't mind. Again, we're getting ready for the finals.
9 days or so. Yeah,
we'll chat with you in 9 days. Thanks again, Dave.
Thanks, Rich.
That's Dave McMenamin. Everybody, catch all of his reporting on ESPN, and it's certainly in advance of Game 4, where he is in Dallas tonight. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.